Boy, I almost forgot us to drop us in there, Albert. Welcome, everybody. This is the Denver Bronco Roundup. This is the training camp edition of Denver Bronco Roundup. I'm right down here in Centennial, better known as Dove Valley. Albert is out there in, rivalry land in Kansas City, and unfortunately, Jody's not. Unfortunately or fortunately, Jody's not here today. If anybody's been listening to all the media that's went around training camp day 5, maybe not the day that Jody is helping or hoping for as a big Russell Wilson fan, and that I'll leave it at that to begin with. Albert, how you doing this evening, buddy?
I'm doing very well. Had some fun moments today, some lesser fun moments, but all in all, it was a good day.
Very good, buddy. Very good. For all of those, I'm trying to keep an echo down. Albert's trying to talk about as loud as he can. I'm sorry if you get any reverb. I'm trying to hear what he's saying and trying to get to all of your comments as well, guys. So appreciate everyone that's jumping in. Looks like we already got a couple of comments coming in, buddy. It looks like David Slade is jumping in saying, "Good evening, guys. Good evening, David. Appreciate you joining." I'm sure Albert feels the same.
Good evening, Dave, and Michael Ronquillo as well.
And yeah, we got Michael Ronquillo jumping in. I was thinking, I'm gonna have to come up with a nickname for Michael as well, and I'm thinking Mr. Bronco, because if you take M from Michael and R from Ronquillo, you got Mr. right there. And boy, there's not a guy that I know that follows the Broncos as heavy as he does in every single podcast. We appreciate you being in here, Michael, Mr. Bronco. Now that's your nickname on our show from here on out, buddy. I know we got one more here. I'm going to jump in and see. Ooh, got a lot of things going on here, man. Sorry about that, guys. So, trying to juggle a lot of things being on the road is not always so fun, buddy. It's always a little bit interesting. So, oh, hey, man, I gotta jump into this one. It's a name I haven't seen in a long time. Good time pal from a very, very, very long time ago. This is Mr. Danny Kitchen coming in. Heck, he even showed up on our show once upon a time, if you go back in the day. So, welcome back, Danny Kitchen. Appreciate you being here, buddy. and now we've started it. Now I got to get David Slade a nickname. He says, "Well, dang, I want a nickname too now." So laugh out loud. We'll get you one, Dave. We'll get you one. Let me think on that one, because man, there's a lot of good ones we could put in there. What were you going to say there, Albert?
I would say the spicy one.
The spicy one, like it. He will spice up your life. Yeah, I know there's one way. And if Jody was here, I'm sure that you would get some applause on this one. David Slade coming in and say, "Just call me the Russ hater." Well, you're not alone. And as I started off the beginning of the show, like I said, unfortunately Jody's not with us. Has some family things he needs to take care of, and that's all good. All good things, by the way, nothing bad. Just some family things he needs to take care of. So we're giving him that time. But Albert, Jody was talking about that, we need to have that patience. I was telling everybody they just need to calm down yesterday. I think as Jody was saying, it's all going to come together. Everyone's going to have to eat a little bit of crow. We've heard that on here this show, both from you and from Jody. But unfortunately, and I shared a little bit of these videos. I'm not sure if you were able to take a look before you jumped on, but Russ did throw a couple picks today, and that's not really, like I said, what Jody was hoping for. It's not what Broncos country was really hoping for, obviously. I'll get into the details of it a little bit, but just your initial thought, man. You're not at training camp like a lot of our fans. What are your thoughts, not seeing and just kind of hearing? What are you thinking there, Albert?
I don't see a big problem from it as the moment. It is training camp, and they all have to start melding together. They only have been training like this for now 6-7 days, and the O-line is pretty much brand new system. It all has to gel together, and you cannot expect that to happen in just 1 week.
That's fair, buddy. I'm going to get into the Russ hater right now, Mr. David Slater. He says, I heard that his decision making is not good. You know, kind of what Albert alluded to, and I'm not going to say I'll drop it back up on there, Dave. I'm not going to say it's fantastic. Um, I go back and I think about again, and I don't want to relate. I know I'm relating an experience of mine. I don't want it to be taken out of context and say this is where Russ is at, right? But when you start getting into a new system, and for me it was kind of like getting into little league football, and you're trying to learn something completely new, it's going to take some time. Your decision making isn't going to be right there, right off the bat. And I, again, even as Sean Payton said, we're testing a lot of things and we're going to fine tune things in order to make the best of every single player. And I think we even heard that from a press conference from a defensive player last night, or yesterday. So yes, there's not the best decision making, but I think that's part of the process that we're going to have to go through. As Albert alluded to, it is training camp. Literally, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about going to camp to train, to get better, to be at that level when we're at the end. There will be a time, and I put it in our overall kind of description of our show tonight. You know, when do we sound the alarm bells? When do the alarm bells go off, and when do we have to kind of go into a panic? I don't think it's today. I don't think it's today, but there is going to become a time, man. And Albert, what are your thoughts on that? When are you going to start getting a little bit nervous if the dialogue continues as we've kind of seen through these first 5 days, and as somebody even pointed out on another podcast, hey, these guys have been together since April. If you want to start talking about when they first started getting together and OTAs and the whole 9 yards, so this isn't really like day 2, day 3. This is a few months of being together. When do we hit panic mode, sound the alarm bell, and start getting worried about the progress of Russell Wilson and this offense?
Okay, see, I will see it as this way. When you start learning to drive the car, first you have your classroom section, all the rules and the things you learn from a book. And then all of a sudden you go into the car. You start driving. Are you gonna start driving in the middle of the city immediately? I don't think so, because a lot of errors will happen. This is exactly the same. They might have been together since April, but what are they doing? Strength and conditioning, maybe learning some of the schedules or the systems, but then you have to bring it in practice. It doesn't happen overnight. I would ring the alarm bell week 4 or 5 of the regular season.
Ooh, boy, man, you're waiting a little bit late. I mean, I have patience. Don't get me wrong, Albert. I'm going to have some patience with this. I was the guy last year that kept preaching on this show that, hey, until Hackett proves me wrong, I'm going to stick with him. I think you remember hearing that a few times from me last year. I probably stuck with Hackett longer than anybody, and maybe to a detriment of my own personal knowledge of Broncos, or being an expert of any sort, I guess you could say, because I stuck with them very long. I want to see things play out. I'm going to get to a few more comments because Dave's kind of in here, and I want to get to them before they pass over and they're not relevant anymore. He says, real quick, we can't keep using training camp. They had OTAs, etc., to work this stuff out, kind of like we'd mentioned. Yeah, they've been together since April. I get it, Dave. These are some of the same issues as last year that we have had to try to blame Hackett for. When does Russ take some of the blame? Yeah, when do we sound those alarm bells, Dave? I think that's a legitimate question, the one that I'm bringing up. I think there is a time. I will say this. This is, unfortunately, like you said, this is not only last year's problem, but it was the year before's problem and the year before that's problem. The amount of turnover we've had between quarterback and between coaches, we're always to get everyone on the same page. I think we have a great minded quarterback, one that went out and got himself physically able to come in and run an offense, and we're pairing one of the best offensive minds in the game. That being said, there should be success there, and you're absolutely right. At some point, if this doesn't start to click, you do got to start to look at Russ. I'm the guy who's probably the toughest on Russ. I'm looking at a 34 to 35 that's going to turn to 35 years old quarterback in this league. There's not a whole lot of 35 plus year old quarterbacks that excel in the NFL. There's a handful that we can talk about. We can talk about Aaron Rodgers right now. We can talk about Tom Brady, who retired. And then we start getting to names like Ben Roethlisberger and the like. There's not a long list of guys that do it. There has to be some accountability at some point for Russell Wilson. I'm gonna tell you when mine is in just a second. I'll get to a couple other comments. David also say missing a wide open Jerry Jeudy for a touchdown pass, bad in the red zone interceptions, and saying stop. This guy is a veteran QB. Yeah, and like I said, there is a time when there is no excuses even for that veteran QB. I'm gonna give it until a lot sooner than Albert the Mile High Dutchie. If I don't see something that looks very competent by week 2 of the preseason, bells are ringing in my ears. That gives them all a training camp, almost 30 days. It's going to give him all of training camp, and then about 30 days until the beginning of our 30 plus days until the beginning of our first game. September 10th, if I remember, is our first game. So we're looking at almost 40 days until that first whistle blows for the first real game. We'll have those preseason games before that, but heck, in that time, if we can't get it figured out, if it's week 2 of preseason and we're stumbling, there is some concern, Dave. And hey, I think it does need to be somewhat placed on Russ, but we'll have to also see that play out. I sent a lot of videos, a lot of photos kind of in the background. Not all of this is Russ. There are some issues on offensive line. Quite honestly, even the interception to Justin Simmons, I was thinking about it. Did Brandon Johnson run that crosser at the right depth? It was a little bit over Brandon Johnson's head, right? But if he's supposed to be 2 yards deeper, that's not over Brandon Johnson's head at all. And quite honestly, it looked pretty close to like almost going through Brandon Johnson's hands, not necessarily over his head. So it wasn't a terribly placed ball. And if he would have been 2 yards deeper, we don't know the ins and outs of that. We don't know if Brandon Johnson's being coached up saying, why didn't you cut that short? You need to be 2 yards deeper in that route. I can tell you those guys are being coached up on being a yard too not wide enough or a yard, too narrow in on the field. They're getting coached up. It's happening. There's a lot of things that are happening. You can't put it all on Russ. But I think there is a time when you need to sound that alarm bell. Boy, I ranted, Albert. Whew. Sorry about that, buddy.
And David says Russ is a veteran quarterback. I agree. But if you have a seasoned Formula One driver going to a different team in a brand new car, and this is what we're talking about. It is a brand new system, brand new team. It all has to start gelling together, and it takes a little time. You cannot expect it overnight.
I agree. I'm going to jump around just a little bit here. He's saying, I agree, Keith, as far as maybe that preseason game. He says, if we are having issues as of August 18th, we're having problems. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time to gel. I mean, we can talk about a million things. Bowles coming back from an injury, McGlinchey having to take time off for family, on that offensive line front. Dulcich hasn't looked fantastic, when one of your main weapons isn't looking up to speed. Tim Patrick just went down. Sutton could be having a better training camp. There's a lot of different places we can point the fingers that people that need to step up. What my point is right now it's all going in one direction. It's all being placed on one person, it seems, and that's Russell Wilson. And let alone Again, my quote from Justin Simmons yesterday when I asked him if he was going to be this hard on the offense the entire time, iron sharpens iron. And I think we got some of the sharpest iron out there when it comes to this Denver Broncos defense, guys. It's not easy to play against this defense. They're playing at an elite level. It's almost like they're playing with one mind when they're out there. They already know exactly where everyone should be and needs to be and how they can pursue at at a ferocious level. And that's tough to go against for any league, for any team in this league, let alone one that's trying to, you know, get some competency in a brand new offense that they're just trying to pick up for the first time, even if they've been together since April. We're only still
And
talking about a few months and not very much time to actually put pads on like they've done the last 3 days and really practice.
I have a question. How is Cushionberry doing?
I like what Cushonsberry is doing. Like I said, physically he's changed. I think beginning of the training camp, that offensive line had some struggles. I mean, they were pushed up into they were right into Russell Wilson's lap. So a lot of times when you heard Russell Wilson struggling at the very beginning, it wasn't by any help of that offensive line. They're consistently getting better. And today I think was their best day of camp as an offensive line group. It is getting better. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but even yesterday, Bowles jumped off sides or false started. McGlinchey false started. We didn't see that today. We saw better pockets for Russ at times. It didn't feel like he was getting pushed up. It didn't put pressure on Russ near as much. So, like what's
So,
happening there, and of course, Cushionberry being part of that.
so when he doesn't get pressured as much, is his ball placement better?
Usually, unfortunately, that Brandon Johnson one that went a little bit over Brandon Johnson's head was one of the more beautiful pockets I'd seen. You know what I mean? So went back, rewound, look at that tape, and would have liked to seen a better ball delivered from a pocket like that. Or, like I said, maybe Brandon Johnson was supposed to be a couple of yards deeper, but you'd want your quarterback to adjust to that. But we're all learning, guys. We're all learning. It was within, oh, geez, 6 inches of a catch off the top of his hands. So, I mean, it was right there, if not closer. Some people said it went through his hands. So, it was a very close play. Um, I immediately thought if Tim Patrick was running that route, would he have snatched that ball out of the air? Quite possibly. We all know how Tim Patrick is. We're having to adjust in Brandon Johnson taking that route now, so that's a change as well. I want to get to Dave's comment here. He says, "I've heard coaches are yelling at Russ to throw the ball and not hold it." There was a session yesterday when you definitely did hear that. Throw it, throw it, throw it, throw it. It was coming from the coaches, but you hear a lot of barking from coaches all the time. I mean, whether they're breaking the huddle, whether they're talking about coverage to defensive players, you know what I mean? There's barking that's happening a lot. So for us to be told to throw it, yeah, it's not the best thing to be heard, to be being heard, to be yelled at your starting QB, but it's also a lot of people have talked about the muscle memory and having to retrain that muscle memory, and there's only certain ways you can do that. They're trying to retrain Russell Wilson a little bit, letting him know when he needs to release the ball is important as well. So, whew. Like I said, I feel like I'm like on a rant over here. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, you're fine.
I
Because
wanted to
you
get
have
to
to.
a couple different things though. Few other things that I guess I saw from camp today. I think I saw one of our first really big dust ups at camps where things got a little bit chippy in between offense and defense. Didn't happen necessarily with the starters, but it's always interesting to see what happens, how it plays out, who's involved. So it was a running play. Tyler Beatty was the runner in this scenario. He's handed off to, and Luke Wattenberg was the center. I'll tell you what, he was up against PJ Mustafer, who's a pretty beastly man. If you haven't seen PJ Mustafer, he's a big guy, number 97 in the middle, and Luke was holding his own. He was pushing back PJ quite well. Well, PJ kind of did a little swim move to the side as Beatty was coming through, and he jumped on top of his back and tackled him hard to the ground. I mean, landed body weight and all on top of and Tyler Beatty. And Luke did not take kindly to tackle that like that. That's not supposed to be happening in training camp. And next thing you know, they both had a hold of each other's jerseys right underneath the chin strap there. I'm sure having a few words at each other. I guess this is the big thing. The coaches that all play out. They let the players manage themselves, and the players did manage themselves. And at the end, it's like fist bumps and hug it out type of situations at the very end, and it's just good to see not only the intensity, but at the same time the camaraderie that came out of a moment like that at the same time. And Albert, I know you've played some sports in your life too. You know what that camaraderie is like, highs and lows, sticking up for your buddy. Talk about that just a little bit, bud.
So
What
yeah, I
that
was.
means, especially like in context of this for the Broncos too.
So yeah, I was goalie in soccer. So I'm pretty much in charge of the defense, especially around the goal. And yeah, sometimes my teammates, I yelled at them, and when everything was all said and done, yeah, it was it meant nothing. But in the moment, in the heat of the moment, they knew that, but I was in charge, and they had to do what I was telling, and didn't always get appreciated. But yeah, I was the captain of the defense in that area.
There you go, Matty. You were playing the Josie Jewell of soccer, as we would think. Playing that mic, I guess you could say, that's out there. Got the speaker in the helmet and getting all the calls. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it was just like I said. Sometimes it gets a little bit chippy, and I think sometimes I even think about through my friendships through the years and stuff like that. Sometimes or maybe it's your siblings. If it wasn't for the fights, if it wasn't for the bad times, the good times sometimes don't get realized. And sometimes it's those hard times and those bad times and those fights and those apologies that bring you guys together closer as a group, or heck, even as a couple sometimes. Sometimes you got to get it out as a couple, I think, sometimes too. You can't let it all be bottled up inside. You let it out, you feel better, you get that big old hug, and you can move on with life and feel better as a group. And I think that was one of the things that I saw out on the field, I guess is the best way to put it. But it was
I,
also good to see that ferocity too, man.
I have a funny story about this. So at one of the corner kicks, the the forward from the opposing team, he was a mean son of a gun. And if he could hurt you, he would hurt you. And I had my chance. I come out and knocked him, give him a sucker punch right on the chin. Before he hit the ground, he was already unconscious, and I hit the ball.
Oh my goodness.
hmm And then, so the other opposing team leaders, trainers and stuff, went around him, and one of the opposing team players came to me and he said, "He deserved that."
Well, there you go, bud. Well, I don't know if any of that was happening out there. There was no deserve it punches or anything like that, or takeouts on the field. But like I said, good intensity, good veracity, and even though things got chippy, it was good that the coaches didn't have to get involved. Ultimately, you want your team to figure that out on their own and take care of each other and get themselves separated and quite honestly get back in the huddle and get back to things. In a game, the coach doesn't get to run out there. It's the refs, and if the refs have to get involved, sometimes flags are flying. So it was just a good experience all the way around. So I did want to get to a few things. There's a few people that weren't playing or weren't suited up and weren't out there, going through the reps today. Um, Four names altogether: Javonte Williams, Randy Gregory, uh, Moss, and all of a sudden I'm forgetting his first name. Riley
Riley,
Moss. Why did I forget that? I have no idea. Riley Moss, and Jonas Griffith. So I'm gonna go through these really quick. One of the things I didn't notice or didn't see, I guess, is Jonas Griffith. I guess went down or was, went out off the field early yesterday. Um, if anybody has been listening to a Sean Payton press conference, you're not going to get much from Sean Payton. We don't know the exact status, but him being super quiet about it, I don't like the sound, the overall feel of that. Seems like if guys are okay, he's like he's fine. Don't worry about it. Quinn Miners was asked about yesterday because he left a little bit earlier. He said, "Don't worry about it. He's good." Well, Quinn Miners was back out there today. Jonas Griffith wasn't out. Didn't want to comment too much on it, so I'm worried about Jonas Griffith. Great, great Bronco. If you ever get the chance to meet him, one of the most fantastic guys. I've got to talk to him a couple times, and just a stand-up guy. So kind of personally hurts just a little bit knowing the guy at least at that level, I guess you could say. So also want to talk about Riley Moss. Riley Moss had a core injury. A lot of people were pointing out the fact that that hamstring has been bothering him ever since he's became a Bronco. Injured it a few times or aggravated at least a couple times since he's been a Bronco. It sounds like that was the core injury that he had to have surgery on, which happened yesterday, and is expected to be back in 4 weeks. So, unfortunately, Riley Moss is out. Makes a little bit more sense because we talked about Mr. Fabian that came over from the Giants yesterday. Kenny Kirkpatrick was on there. We were wondering why we brought a cornerback in. Well, with Riley Moss out for the next 4 weeks, we certainly needed someone to kind of fill in, and that made all the sense. Fabian Moreau kind of being picked up on the wire. So, um, just to let you guys know, Javonte, Williams, Randy Gregory, nothing to be concerned about. They're getting their kind of scheduled time off. Randy Gregory was in a group that had some scheduled time off, and of course, Javonte was definitely in that group coming back from that injury. That was pointed out by Sean Payton right away that he would definitely be getting some rest days, and these were one of those days. So good to hear on that part. Randy Gregory, good guys. Javonte Williams, good. I put it in the comments, and I didn't want anybody panicking. But your thoughts, Albert? Riley Moss, especially. Riley Moss was obviously third round pick, Denver Broncos. A lot of people had him. Were really excited about him and maybe what he could do and who he could maybe press in this training camp. How big of a setback will it be? Now that Riley Moss is having this injury, expected to be out 4 weeks.
I don't think it will have a big impact. Um, he can, this way, he can study the game a little bit more, NFL, and get used to it. The NFL is much more fast-paced than college, so it is just easing him in a little bit later. I don't think it's a big problem.
Very good. Graham jumping in here. Boy, he says, I think there's not a Broncos 2023 draft pick talked more about than Riley Moss. I must have been right in the middle of talking about him when he said that because he said, and cue, laugh out loud. So, yeah, Riley Moss has been getting a little bit more of attention. I think there was maybe a closer path, I think, in a lot of ways. Cornerback is a big room. I can tell you, though, with the way these guys are playing out there, my surprise cornerback, PS2's been playing great. Mathis has had a pretty good camp. K'Wan Williams. K'Wan Williams has been showing out. K'Wan Williams in a brand new number, so when you see him hit the field maybe preseason, look for number 8. So that's a little bit different seeing K'Wan Williams in a number 8 back there. But K'Wan Williams is the cornerback that has taken the biggest leap, and he was already ferocious last year. But K'Wan Williams in this defense stepping up, boy, man, we're in a special place, guys. We're in a really special place with this defense, and I I think that's getting a little bit understated with with all the struggles that we're seeing on offense. And I should probably make a little more, a little more emphasis on that. I think moving forward, I think we all should. So
And I also hear a lot of good news about Nick Bonito.
yeah, I think if we rewound to like our first day on the pod here, bud, one of the things I talked about was guys that look different, compared to last year from a physical aspect right off the bat. And Nick Benito was one of those guys. Now, one of the things I didn't realize, and I was trying to figure this out, and I think I talked to you guys even after a pod one night. Coach Sean Payton spent a good, and I maybe over exaggerated at the time, but I would say he spent a good 10 minutes straight talking to an assistant coach. And I was trying to figure out who this assistant coach was. And I finally figured it out. And it all came together today because I was kind of researching a little bit about Nick Benito before we got on the air. Nick Benito has an old college coach on the Denver Broncos staff. He was brought over. His name is, I believe, Matt Cain. I know the last name is Cain, C-A-I-N. And I'm telling you, I think it's made a difference for Nick Benito. Having an old college coach on the staff, he's here in year 2. And the guy that Sean Payton was talking to for a good straight 10 minutes, he's the pass rush specialist on this team. So I'm sure, as most of you know, Nick Benito's never had an issue getting after the quarterback. What Nick Benito has had a trouble with is setting that edge. And what I've loved, at least from that physical change that I've seen from Nick Benito, is the amount of weight that I think he's put on the bottom end where it's going to help him set that edge so he doesn't get blown up by a blocker is fantastic. He's still trying to put it together. He's not 100% fantastic at it, but I can tell you there's a marked improvement from last year to this year. Hit to a couple more comments if you don't mind, Albert, real quick, because we got the great Sis coming in here saying hello, gents. Sis is here. Sis is here, and he's always welcome, bud. Welcome, Sis. So great to see you, bud. Great to see you on the K&K show when you jump on there. So I'm going to give you a little bit of plug there, but always great to see you here on the Denver Bronco Roundup. Jumping in the comments. And Dave thinks so too, saying, Sis, how are you doing, my friend? And of course, Dave's jumping back saying, Dave Slade, that's not good. I'm not sure what that means, but very good. I'm sure he's saying he is good. I know, Sis. That's just the way he is. So, gentlemen, I'm usually saying gentlemen. It's Albert. It's just Albert now tonight. Again, we're missing Jody.
So it is
and,
gentle one then.
Say again, buddy.
So it is gentle one then.
Yeah, it's gentle one, man. I did want to get to one thing. I did hear, and I didn't even put this in I totally forgot about this. I didn't put it in anything, but we had some concerning news come out about a defensive lineman that, we were expecting big things from, but now isn't even in training camp. And that was Mr. Wazarike. I don't know if you heard the news that kind of broke.
Yep.
It's worse than we thought, Broncos country. Yoma Wazarike was, and it keeps getting worse and worse in my opinion. He was, as we all know, he was betting on NFL games. That's a big no-no. B, he was betting on Broncos games and Broncos players to the tune of 32 times last year. And if that isn't bad enough, back when he was in college, they found out he was also gambling under a quote-unquote burner account, basically, and had a whole ring of players that at Ohio State that were in this gambling ring that they were doing back in college as well. Man, it's as much as I wanted this guy to be a big portion and a big part of the Denver Broncos, I don't see him ever stepping foot across the line onto an NFL football field again, in my opinion. I don't see how, as little as Calvin Ridley did, for instance, in comparison to now what we're talking about, and we're talking possibly federal charges now because of it as well. We're talking possible, from what I heard, up to 6 years in prison because of the charges that could be levied against Wazarike. Doesn't look good, and I think that's just a place that we need to move on from. blown away when I found out that he was betting on Denver Broncos players and games. Albert, I know that you like to Wazirike too. How did you take the news, buddy?
I, it is just stupid what he did, and yeah, this should not be taken lightly. This needs to be. I already see it. Are they going to make an example of him for a lifetime ban? I think he should be banned for lifetime. If you bet on an NFL games, okay, I can see that, but don't bet on your own team
Yeah,
because you play for them and you can make an you have an influence on the game. You can
correct.
try to change the outcome a little bit, and I think it definitely needs to be taken not lightly. And I think lifetime ban is in place.
Yeah, I would have to, Dave. This is this would be the time. Dave comes in and says, "Does the NFL make an example of him and hand down that lifetime ban?" I think if there was a time, I mean, betting on your own team, betting on your own players, on your own team, betting 32 times in a season. Um, I just don't. I talked about just in general. Hey, these guys know that gambling is basically a no-no. Just stay away from gambling in general. Just don't bet on sports in general, and you know that you're going to be in the clear. You'll be just fine. This is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. This is taking it into the locker room knowledge. You know, heck, you could get in a guy's psyche in the locker room before you head out on the game, out on the field, and completely throw him off. And, like you said, affect the outcome of the game. It's not right. And yeah, I would have no problem with it. I mean, it is kind of a lesser known player, you know what I mean? But I think it certainly would set the precedent. I don't think Awazarike was known much out of the Broncos country fold, but it would set a precedent nonetheless. People would maybe that would curb what we're seeing in the NFL right now, all the issues that they're having, and these suspensions that have gone through the Bengals and the Falcons, the Broncos, you name it. It might be the time.
It's
I do
almost
want to get to a few other comments because we have another friend of the show coming in. Another guy I guess we need to come up with a nickname for, so we'll need to start thinking about that. This is Clayton coming in saying, "Good evening, guys. Smash that like button and share, guys." And man, I tell you what, Clayton, appreciate you so much. You always come in here. You're always such a great supporter. You're always trying to help us out in that regard. Appreciate everybody that's went over to YouTube and started watching us over there as well. We're trying to grow that following a little bit as well. So I know that you guys, we do a lot on Facebook, but check us out over there as well. So thank you, Clayton, very much. And I want to say there's another, yeah, he had another comment in here. He says, "What a way to top off a long day listening to you guys and grilling out barbecue chicken." Perfect segue. Is
yeah,
that a perfect segue or what, Albert?
yeah. I would say as long as he's using with seasoning.
Yes, exactly, guys. So, guys, one of the things I always need to mention, boy, it's getting almost a little bit later in our show. Not too bad, I guess. It seems longer when it's just the two of us here, buddy. With we get three of us in here with Jody, and things go really fast, really fast. So we got a little bit of time. That's good. But I wanted to get to this real quick. I always have a hard time finding it. But guys, we're brought to you by Willow Seasonings and Blends. Willow Seasonings and Blends is a Colorado-based company. They're a Denver Bronco loving company. They're a Blue Ribbon award-winning first place prize for their Sweet Heat rub or seasoning, whichever you like to call it. They're a veteran-owned company, and they're a great, great supporter of the show. David Slade is the owner of that company, and I'm telling you guys, just because he's a friend of the show, just because he's in the comment, has no precedent on what I'm about to say. The best spices I've ever had, ever. I've went through tons of them through the years. I used to work at an appliance store where we sold barbecue equipment. I've done a ton of barbecuing throughout my entire life. Willow Seasonings is my number one seasonings and sauces company out there. WillowSeasonings.com is the way to go. They'll spice up your life. If you get over there, you're stocking up, you're filling up your basket, you're getting all set up for your barbecue season for the rest of summer into fall and the best barbecuing season winter. So go ahead and get stocked up now. You got that, your cart all loaded up. Hit the promo code, type in DBR 2023. It's going to get you 15% off, already fantastic prices, and you're helping out a family in need over at RMSN. Check out willowseasonings.com, guys. Type in that promo code DBR2023, and I'm telling you guys, you won't regret it. Best seasonings and sauces out there, bar none. No biased. Use it every time I barbecue. Won't get away from it. Couldn't pay me to get away from it. Doesn't matter if Dave hates me and drops us as a sponsor. I'll still be buying us his seasonings and sauces. That dang good, guys. So get out there,
And
get yourself some. You won't
and,
regret it, guaranteed.
and I'm gonna put in a little challenge on it. If Russ really turns it around and is gonna be a top 10 quarterback, I, I'm challenging David to make a dangerous spice.
Oh wow, wow. Yeah, what will it take, Dave? We want to know what will it take for you to come up with you know, a sauce that we could, kind of put a dangerous sauce out there, you know what I mean? And not get in trouble with Dangerous himself. What would it take to get a Willow Seasonings dangerous sauce? I like it, buddy. I like it. Wow. Let's see. I'm trying to get caught up on all these comments, guys, but I feel like I fell way behind. I'm so sorry. Um, Definitely
Nothing.
glad it wasn't a bigger player. I think that might have been when we were talking about the suspensions, obviously with Awazarike. Um, Clayton jumping in saying, I got you guys. I appreciate it. That was perfect. Laugh out loud. Eddie saying thanks to Dave. So Graham saying he still needs to get himself a bottle. I'm telling you, buddy, it's fantastic. He's even got some ideas for you there, Dave. He's saying, how about a Carolina Reaper and habanero dangerous sauce? Wow, laugh out loud. And Dave says, man, he brings down that MVP. He's making the sauce, guys. Oh, and a Super Bowl trophy. Man, you're not making it easy. Jeez, Dave. Does he need to take home Super Bowl MVP as well? Man, Dave's not up for the dangerous sauce, I guess. So making it difficult. Well, I'll tell you what. If he does get that MVP, if we do take home a Super Bowl win, or even if he takes home either or, I'm still going to give you a big bother on this. I'll guarantee it, Dave. Um, let's. I know that you'd be happy to eat that crow with whatever sauce you put together. Because I know right now, Dave's a little bit saucy on Dangerous right now. Let's just put it that way. Needs to see some of that spiciness from Dangerous and be able to get it in there without any interceptions. So good conversation, guys. Like I said, all that being said, willowseasonings.com. Check them out, guys. They've got great sauces over there. So. Um,
We
Yeah,
get it, Dave.
and I just wanted to get this. Sorry, I was reading at the same time, but Dave says, I hope I'm wrong about Russ. I just have my doubts. And Dave, like I said, I'm the big questioner here, man. 35-year-old quarterback over here needs to start putting it together. I'm not going to wait till week 4 like Albert. I need to start seeing it come together a little bit quicker than that. If not, I think we do have some concern. But I think we still have time, Dave. Please, all of Broncos country, if I was to restate what I said on last night's podcast and to requote the great and phenomenal Taylor Swift, uh-oh, 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 you need to calm down. All right? Just calm down just for a little bit. Just for a little bit. It'll be all right, Broncos country. I'm not going to promise you, but I think we have time. So just calm down just a little bit. And like I said, I want to just keep putting out the fact there's 11 players out there that need to sync together in order for all of them to look good, including Russell Wilson. If one guy is not doing his job, it can throw off everything. So not that everything needs to be perfect from all 11 all the time, but at the same time, there's a lot of people trying to figure out how to do things right now, not just Russell Wilson.
And and Dave, yeah, I do not blame everybody. Russ is to be blamed as well, and especially for last year, and maybe for what is going on in training camp right now. But it has to be like Keith said, it is an 11-person tier group, and I would even say the coaches included, and they all have to come together.
Yeah. It's about that camaraderie they were kind of talking about a little bit earlier. The great Kenny's coming in here from the K&K Sports Show saying, Kenny here, evening fellas, the best in the business, Keith and Dutchy. Sorry, I'm helping out one of our interns with the Met Show. Laugh out loud. Hey, Albert, heard Jody took a trip to Minnesota to look for Alexander Madison. That's going to be a running joke forever between you guys, man. Um, yeah, unfortunately, Jody's not here. Appreciate Kenny from the great K&K Sports Show jumping in and commenting as well. And yeah, bud, don't worry about apologizing. You do your thing, and we'll catch up with you guys. So, no worries at all. So, um,
By the
and Kenny jumping in here. Aw, Kenny, love you guys. Love you, Kenny. Love all
love
you
you too.
guys.
By the way, this is Alexander Madison is also going on in K&K.
Oh boy, it was probably because of that big interview that Kenny had scheduled with him last night. Check out the K&K Sports Show, guys. They do all your NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, hockey, you name it. They do just about any sport, quite honestly. But they're not Colorado based like the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. I didn't mention them yet, guys, but the Rocky Mountain Sports Network is how you're seeing us tonight. We are presented by the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Check them out. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on Twitter. You can send them a nice X, message over there on Twitter, I guess. So, again, Rocky Mountain Sports Network. And of course, don't forget, best way to get a hold of them, RockyMountainSN.com. That's RockyMountainSN.com. You can, again, find them over on this Facebook as well. Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Just search out your groups. You'll find them there as well. Or, like I said, Rocky Mountain Sports Network on Twitter or Instagram. It's amazing. They're everywhere. So, thank you very much, Rocky Mountain Sports Network, for allowing me and the Dutchie over here, Albert, to come out here to Broncos country and go to training camp, report to you guys, get back to you guys, and just talk Denver Broncos football in general. Kenny does come in with the question, haven't read it yet. He says, question for Keith, what was your most memorable moment from this training camp, on or off the field? Um, on or off the field this training camp? I'll be honest, man. I took the one day off that they actually had during this training camp, so I guess this would be an off the field type of thing. And I got a cheap seat for the Colorado Rockies playing the Oakland A's. It's been probably, boy, 25 years since I last took in a Major League Baseball game. So it was a nice little treat to sit up there and take in the Rockies, get a little win against the A's, a little 2-0 win, and yeah, a beautiful ballpark. Got to take in Coors Field. It was fantastic little day. A little separation from Broncos and maybe a little reset halfway through this little training camp endeavor. It was a nice time. So thanks for the question. Um, yeah, I think we're almost there, Albert. I don't know if I want to give you a little bit of time. If you have any closing thoughts, comments, questions, and then certainly any goodbye messages to our great Denver Bronco Roundup fans out there that have been tuning in with us too.
I also have a memorable moment, and this is not a good one. Tim Patrick. almost of the year in between two injuries. And Tim Patrick is a very likable player, and he will be missed again. And that's, of course, it is a memorable moment, but not in a good way. Other than that, I'm looking forward to the season. I know Russ and the offense will turn it around and will be very, very good. I would say a top 10 offense, I hope. And if we have a top 10 offense and top 10 defense, we will make the playoffs. And Kenny, even although we have a little fun thing about Alexander Madison, I love you too.
Love it, buddy. Love it. Michael Ronquillo just coming in last minute. He just wanted to point out DeMarcus Ware will sing the national anthem at the Hall of Fame game tomorrow night before the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns play in the game. So DeMarcus Ware obviously getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's also going to be singing the national anthem. Man, talk about a multi-talented individual. Not only are you capable of being the most ferocious football player on the football field, wreaking havoc on quarterbacks left and right, but then you just decide to sing the national anthem before the Hall of Fame game. Sure, why not, guys? So, got Graham coming in here and saying cheers, guys, and Michael Ronquillo saying great show tonight, Keith and Albert. Well, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone. We've had such a great show tonight, and it's all because of you guys. From Michael and Graham, who I just threw up there, to Kenny that was in here earlier. Of course, David Slade and Sliss. We had Clayton in here. Boy, who else did we have jump in here? Who am I forgetting here, buddy? Anybody? Anybody you can remember? Anyway, we had a ton of people in here tonight, guys. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Like I said, I made the 800-mile trip down here because I wanted to be able to give you guys as close to firsthand knowledge as possible, give you real insight, give you real feedback. Unfortunately, today was my last day at Real Training Camp. We'll all kind of be on the same page, relying on those media outlets. But I guarantee, me, Albert, Jody, we're going to be scouring through. We're going to be getting all the right news. Make sure that you guys are up to speed and up to date. And again, appreciate you guys. Make sure you tune in. Follow the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. That's always the best way to get us. Follow Denver Bronco Roundup. That's the second best way to find us. Make sure that you're heading over to Willow Seasonings and Blends and stocking up on all your fantastic seasonings, sauces, and rubs. And guys, unless you have anything else, Albert, I think we're going to get out of here with a little mile high salute. And guys, we'll see you. I think because of everything that's going on, look for us next Tuesday, our regular scheduled time. Next Tuesday, probably at 7 o'clock, might be 7:30, but we'll give you guys a heads up. Follow the Denver Bronco Roundup. We're always putting out an ad for all our regular shows, but it should be next Tuesday. Until then, now it's time, buddy. Mile high salute. We're out of here, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.